Welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Rebecca. My husband Murphy and I travel full-time in our 1969 Volkswagen bus. So right now we are in Bar Harbor, Maine, right near Acadia National Park. And our plan is to be here for a couple months. We're going to be working a little bit, saving some money to hopefully travel more in the fall. So we're just getting settled in here. Inside tip for any travelers coming here to Bar Harbor, just know that there is no overnight parking here. We're really struggling to find a place where we can park, but we have a lead on a place that we're going to check out today that we would have to rent a spot for the summer, but it should be a good spot. Keep your fingers crossed, but travelers beware, have a plan, get a campsite, something if you're coming to Bar Harbor. Today I want to talk about traveling with dreadlocks. So we've been living in the bus for about 9 months, and I've had my dreadlocks for about 8 months. So I got them right after we moved into the bus. And they were actually done by Liz Kidder Studio. I will leave a link to her YouTube channel down below. And there's actually a video of me getting my dreadlocks installed by Liz and Karen on her channel, so check that out as well. They are based out of Amesbury, Massachusetts. So before I get into the actual pros and cons of traveling with dreads, one tip that I want to share with you is that, like I said, I got my dreads right after I moved into the bus, and it was kind of a difficult transition for me because I already was trying to get used to sleeping in not the most comfortable bed and traveling in not the most comfortable seats, and the change to my hair was also a little uncomfortable in the first 2 weeks. Having your hair in dreads feels very different than having brushable hair, and it takes a little while to get used to. The first few days, like, my scalp felt really tight. It feels weird to sleep on them. Like, it kind of feels like you're sleeping on a bunch of bumpy pillows. It's just, there was a lot of change and a lot to get used to all at once, moving into the bus and then changing my hair sort of drastically as well. So my recommendation would be, if you're going to get dreads, do it in an environment you're already comfortable in, because you're already going to be a little bit uncomfortable with the change in your hair. It just was kind of too much change all at once, and I found myself uncomfortable for the first couple weeks. All right, so let's get started. My first pro is that it is so easy having dreads. I love that I can wake up in the morning, not do a thing to my hair, and have it look the way I want it to look. I never have to think about brushing my hair or styling my hair or doing anything to it. It's incredibly easy, especially when you find yourself in public fairly often, as you do when you live in a van or a bus. I will roll out of bed in the morning and have to go use a public restroom, and I don't have to think about, like, should I brush my hair or put my hair in a ponytail first. Like, it's gonna look like this when I wake up in the morning. I love how easy it is. The first and definitely the biggest con for me is how long your dreads stay wet when you wash them or get them wet. So depending on the climate that we were in the desert, they would maybe stay wet for about 4 hours after I washed them. But in a more humid climate or a cold and humid climate, they'll stay wet for 24 hours. And this can be really difficult, especially when it's cold, because wet hair can make you even colder, and it can be dangerous if you're outside, if we were camping or hiking or doing something in extreme weather. With wet hair, it can be dangerous. I really had to plan out when I was going to shower, when I was going to wash my hair very carefully, so that I knew I would be warm for when it was drying. And it can just be honestly annoying to have wet hair for that long. Just be prepared. It can be really hard traveling with wet hair and staying warm and dry. So my next pro is how infrequently I have to wash my hair. So my hair is naturally very oily. I have fine hair, and I was used to having to wash it a lot. I would go kind of maybe too long where it would look a little bit dirty, and I'd wash it probably twice a week or 3 times a week, but it really wasn't enough. It looked kind of oily, to be honest. But with dreads, I have to wash them once a week. And honestly, like, I could probably go longer than once a week. They never look like dirty or oily. I wash them mostly to wash my scalp. And because I'm outdoors so much, I tend to get some dirt and stuff. Like, I just want them to be clean. I'm not washing them because they look dirty. I'm washing them so that they are clean and that I can give my scalp a little bit of stimulation. But it's so nice not to have to think about needing to wash your hair, or not feeling like your hair ever looks dirty. So my next con is that dreads can be very hot. Like, on sunny, hot days, I found that they just make me hot, and putting them up definitely does help, but it's a lot hotter than when I had brushable hair. So I'd often have to plan around, like, if we were going to be outside climbing or hiking or whatever and it's a hot day, like, how I was going to get my dreads off my neck and my body to keep myself cool, but also be able to keep the sun off my face, because I like to wear hats to keep sun off my face. So it just took a little bit more planning to make sure that I was a comfortable temperature and could keep the sun off my face. Also, a side note, this isn't like one of the official pros or cons that I planned, but when I got dreads, I realized that a lot of my hats no longer fit my head. So there's obviously a lot more volume to your hair when it's dreaded. So some of my hats I had to get rid of. I gifted one to my sister that they didn't fit my head anymore. My head was too big with the dreads, so be prepared for that as well. So on the opposite end of the spectrum, my next pro is that they also are very warm in cold temperatures. So they can be really insulating. Like, if you put like a knit hat on and you've got all this hair, especially with the long dreads, like, just kind of keeping you warm. It's an extra layer of warmth. I found that they keep my head a lot warmer than when my hair was not dreaded. My next con is a little specific, I think, to my dreads because they're so long. I don't think you can see the whole thing, but they're long. They're like past my waist, and they're very heavy at times. Just like walking around regular life, like, I don't feel them. They're weightless, like hair is weightless, but when I put them up, they get really heavy. So I find that I can't put them up for long periods of time, which can get annoying sometimes. So I find it best to put them like on top of my head so that the weight is actually on my head and not pulling on the actual dreads. But if I put them in a ponytail or like a low bun or something like that, I just find that I can't last a long time. I find it like just feeling really heavy after a few hours. Like, you can certainly do it and it feels fine for a while, but it just made it a little bit more difficult to get them out of my way, especially like traveling around and doing outdoor things. Finding a comfortable way to put them up was a little bit more difficult just because of the weight of them. So if you're someone who's going to be traveling, or even someone who's just really active and you're considering dreadlocks, just consider the length that you want, just knowing that they might be kind of heavy. So my next pro sounds like a little thing, but it actually comes in super handy, which is that I never have to worry about having a hair tie with me. So I had to buy actually like big hair ties that would fit. Like, you can't put dreads in a normal size hair tie, so you can't buy them everywhere. You can't just like walk into like a drugstore, like a Walgreens or something, and get hair ties that will fit your hair. But it kind of doesn't matter because you can tie your hair up with your own hair. So what I would most commonly do if I didn't have a hair tie is just take some of the underneath dreads, and you can pull them around and just tie it off, right? Like, you never have to worry about, am I gonna have something to put my hair up with, or be like, you know, we do a bunch of climbing and hiking and stuff, like be like hours out in the woods and be like, oh no, I forgot a hair tie and my hair is in my way or whatever. Like, doesn't matter. Built-in hair ties. So my last con, it might not be a con for you, but it definitely was for me, which is that I like to have my dreadlocks professionally maintained. Like, I like to go back and visit Liz and Karen, have them tighten up the roots, fix them up. I'd like them to look really neat and I can't do that by myself. Some people like learn how to use a crochet hook to pull in all the stray hairs and tighten up the roots, and I'm just not very good at it, and I want someone to do it for me. But I went like a little bit longer this time than I would have liked, so I felt like my roots looked like real messy for a little bit, but I couldn't just walk into any hair salon and have them fixed up. My last pro is actually my favorite pro, and that's that I feel like I met a lot of people because of my dreadlocks. There's so many people who just wanted to ask questions, or they're good conversation starter. There's so many people who just approached me and wanted to talk about my hair, and I feel like I met so many people that way. It was a really good way to kind of like break the ice with strangers, and they made me really recognizable as well. The funniest story is that I was in the Grand Canyon and I saw a woman who was hiking in front of us. She turned around and she said, "Hey, I saw you in Sedona." And we had just been in Sedona. She was like, "I would know those dreads anywhere." So it just, you know, it's fun. It's kind of like traveling in a Volkswagen bus. Like, it's a conversation starter. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you have dreadlocks, or if you're considering dreadlocks, especially living in a van or traveling full-time, I hope this was helpful for you. I put out new videos every Tuesday, so make sure you subscribe down below to follow along with our travels. Bye, friends. Oh God, pollen. What do I want to say? Oh, it's so hot in here. Oh, I f***ed that up. I forgot one. Oh, I know, it's so itchy. This is all over the place. Ugh. What am I trying to say? I said, what am I trying to say?